I'm so excited. I am talking with Ashley Bontrager with Ember, what do you call it? Ember
Recreational Vehicles.
Ember Recreational Vehicles. It's always such a mouthful when you add all that.
I know. We can say Ember RV. That's fine. Or just Ember.
We're just talking about Ember. And we might talk about something else.
Sure.
So hang in there. Ember is such a cool trailer line. You may want to hear this. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
So you're listening to the RV Small Talk podcast, and it is brought to you by Princess Craft RV. And I'm your host. I am PJ, and yeah, I'm meeting with Ashley. So let's jump right into it because I know that you have a huge history with RVs. So can we start there?
Sure. How long do we have?
Okay. I don't know.
Okay.
However long people will listen.
I'll try to keep it short. Yeah.
Yeah, just tell us the important stuff.
Sure.
Because, yeah, I knew nothing about RVs when I started. I have the assumption that with your background, you knew everything.
I don't know that I would go as far as say I knew everything, but I certainly knew a lot. I knew more than nothing, right?
Right.
So my grandparents actually started Jayco back in 1968 out of their barn and 2 chicken coops, actually. So my grandpa...
Okay, that's a story. Wait.
Right.
Why do you have to say chicken coops? Were they in a chicken coop?
They literally had to clean out the chicken poo out of the coops before they could start production.
No, so it was a big chicken.
It was a barn and 2 chicken coops next to the barn.
Okay.
So my grandpa before this was working at StarCraft and actually in 1964 helped StarCraft get their RV their RV side of the world up and running.
Okay.
And in that process, he was always kind of this inventor. He always had a working mind, right? He always had the next idea. And so when he was doing that with StarCraft RV, he came up with a lifter system for the pop-up trailers that were popular back in the day. Before that, it was grasshopper arms, but he worked and created the first crank lifter system for RVs.
The cable system.
Yep, the cable system, exactly.
Okay.
Yep. It was a crank with a cable that lifted the roof. He then wanted to tweak the design a couple years later and make it a little more robust, actually, and a little better quality. But at the time, StarCraft was like, oh, this one's fine. It's doing great. We don't need to improve on it. It's working. He got a little frustrated. And so my grandma encouraged him, like, hey, you love this. You're enjoying it. You know people now in the industry. What if you started your own? And so sure enough, he quit his job at StarCraft. And the next thing they know, they're building their first RV in their barn and 2 chicken coops.
Wow.
So
why the name Jayco?
So my grandfather was born Amish. And in that faith, a lot of times the middle name of the child is just an initial. And it's the initial of the father. So my grandfather was Lloyd J, like just a J, Bontrager. And so that's kind of where it came from. So it was like, oh, your middle name's J, and then, co for company. We could just combine it, Jayco. And that was kind of my grandma's idea. And then they liked the idea of the blue J being... their logo,
mascot,
right? Their mascot, their logo.
Right.
And just kind of the idea of like you're free as a bird when you camp, and where do you find birds outside in nature, all that stuff. So,
I've been doing this a long time. I never knew that's where that came from.
Yeah.
Never knew that. That's
very interesting.
Cool.
Back in the 1968, that's where it all came from.
Yeah.
So anyway, fast forward, I grew up around this industry then obviously through Jayco.
Hopefully not near the chicken coops. It was
not near,
that?
yeah, we had they had gotten past that. So, they did eventually obviously grow and until my family sold, we were the largest privately owned RV manufacturer. So that was really exciting for us. But yeah, so I grew up around this industry, worked throughout, high school, some odd jobs, and was always very curious about what was going on and how this whole thing worked. Then I went to college and I did actually move away from home for about a year and a half or so. But then
that's not long enough for college, Ashley.
Well, I went to college and then after college I graduated and then moved away.
Okay.
Did 4 years away at college and then another year and a half away from home right after I graduated college.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I am good at math, I promise.
Okay. I'm not, so I'm glad you're here.
Okay, good. So I did move away for a little bit after I graduated college, but then I just kind of had this pull to come back and work in my family's company. There's just something not only about working for your family's company that was intriguing, but I do love this industry. It's just such a fun industry to be in. We are building something that allows people to go out and not only enjoy nature, but quality time, disconnect from the world and spend it with your friends and family. And what's more important, right? So I just love this industry. And so ultimately I ended up moving back to the area here in Northern Indiana. And I did start working at Jayco. And at the time my degree was in marketing. So I spent most of my time early on in the marketing, graduated, throughout that department. And then in 2016, my family did decide to sell the company. So they sold, which was fine. I was a little bit sad by that. I had dreams of, coming out of the marketing department and someday taking over my father's role, which he was president and CEO. That was a goal and a long-term dream of mine. So I was a little sad by that, but I still wanted to try to make it work under new ownership. So
let me interrupt because how did that conversation go? I mean, was it, hey, Ashley...
So my family is large too, and it wasn't just my father, it's not like it was my grandpa to just my dad. It was a whole family. Like my whole family was in it, at least from an ownership standpoint. So I'm one of how many, right? So even though it was a private conversation between my father and I, and he, sat me down and I said, "No, you're not." And he's like, "No, we are. This is what we're going to do." And there were conversations, but ultimately this was what's right for our family and this organization at this time. It's the next phase.
So you weren't angry?
No, I wasn't angry. Sad, yeah. But, at the same time, it was exciting, for looking back at all the history and everything my family had built, and then the culmination of, achieving something that they were able to sell.
Right.
And somebody saw value in, and that was successful. So that part was obviously very important too, and we can't forget about that. Was I angry? No. Was I a little sad for myself? Yeah, because I just knew things would change, and it needed to change from the aspect of now it's a publicly traded company, so it wasn't privately owned, so things were changing as they needed to. But yeah, I wasn't angry, but sad, for myself and just kind of what maybe we were giving up, but also very very proud of what my family had built.
Right.
And was able to do.
Sure. So what did you do after that?
So I did work there for a little bit after.
In marketing?
I was still in the marketing department.
Okay.
Yep. So I did work there for a little bit after, but it just was changing a little too much for me. Okay. And it wasn't anything wrong with it, just for me growing up in the family business. It was hard.
Right.
So I then decided to step away. Plus I had 2 young children, so I said, I'll try the stay-at-home mom thing for a while. And
how long did that last?
Only about 4 years.
4 years? Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah. And I love my children. Don't get me wrong. I love them dearly.
Well, of course you do.
But then also as I started to get, kindergarten's coming and they're going to be in school. And I've always been a pretty determined and motivated individual. So for me, working in my home was not as fulfilling as it is for others. So I always have this fire in my belly, my dad has always said. So then, so as my kids were starting to get more into school age, it was like, okay, and I just always had this in the back of my head, like, what if someday I could do something on my own in this industry? And then fast forward, COVID pandemic hits, and then camping has this big boom, right? Everybody's like, oh, wait, we can't go to hotels, but nobody can tell me not to go camping. And so through all of that, I started to have 3 of my co-founders actually started to kind of reach out and ask some questions like, hey, are you ever going to do this? Like, if you do, we'd join you, we want to kind of do something. And so in 2021, it became official. I kind of said it's now or never. It just kind of felt that way to me. It's one of those.
That's right in the middle of COVID.
It was, but we saw an opportunity, which is really where we got our start at Ember. A lot of people wanted to go camping. So not only were campgrounds full.
Right.
People
right.
also were still concerned about COVID. And so there was still some social distancing, or I want to get away. I want to, not be around people as much.
Right.
And so they needed a way to get off of the campground and go into, unmarked territory, if you will. So we kind of saw this area of our industry that wasn't being, in our opinion, fully tapped into. And so that's really where we got our start in 2021, was by introducing our Overland series, which is made to go off-road and off-grid. So we started from the ground up, and we said, okay, what does an RV need to do all of this? So we put independent suspension on it. So there's no axle. You got anywhere your truck can go, your RV can go. It had off-road, big tires. And then we said, okay, if you're going to be off-road, now you need things to stay there. So let's load it up with solar power. Let's give it bigger tank sizes. And let's also make this really rugged and robust construction that can weather, more tough terrain. And so that really helped us design our very first project, was the way that the pandemic affected RVing at that time. And then also we had the supply chain issues at the time too.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking. It's like, nobody can get parts, and you want to do a startup?
So I will tell you that what I know now, looking back, almost completing my 4th year and moving into my 5th, is that sometimes ignorance is bliss in this.
So
in a startup.
You had no idea.
I had no idea some of the challenges we would come up against. And I think, honestly, if I knew some of the challenges, I may not have done it. But once you're in it, the only way out is through, and you have to find a path, and you have to make it work.
I feel that way about me getting started in the RV business. It was like, if I had any idea of how difficult it would be to get started, because you really do have to push hard to get a foothold.
Absolutely.
Then I don't think I would have done it.
Yeah, I always say, like, entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart.
It isn't.
It takes a lot of guts and a lot of determination, because
especially during the pandemic.
Right.
I mean, the absolute best run.
From a sales side, we felt like, it's the perfect time. Everybody wants to buy an RV.
And that's because we couldn't build enough, because we couldn't get the parts.
Yeah.
So, it's like, duh.
Right. So that, again, I mean, between the, the higher demand for RVs,
right,
and the supply chain, it really did, though, design our first product in a way as well, because they were like, well, we can't get you, a normal suspension, but we're working on this thing that we can get you with this independent. We're like, great, we kind of want to go that way anyway. We can't get you normal everyday RV windows, but we can get you these European style windows that have all these benefits. And we're like, those sound wonderful. Let's do that. Wood was a big issue. Getting wood that is used in construction was very, very tight. We literally met with a supplier, and they're like, well, we can give you everything except for our wood products. We're like, okay, what else do you have? And they're like, well, we have this composite material. We're like, great, no rot, no mold, no mildew. We love it. Let's do it. So we had to get creative, but again, it helped design our Overland product.
Well, your Overland product was one of the first out there that was a kind of a standard travel trailer, but it had mega amounts of solar, big inverters. I mean, it really was very off-grid capable. And I know that 2021 seems like it's just a few years ago, but the reality is a lot of the equipment that's used in the trailers now was not available.
Right.
It wasn't designed.
Correct.
Like the Chill Cube. It just wasn't out there.
Right.
So you had to really overpower these rigs.
Yes.
Just to get 3 or 4 days off grid.
And to your point, I mean, when we first came out, we thought we had a really great solar system. And even though it was only 2021, not that much time has passed. At the time, we did have one of the best solar systems out there, but
not now.
Every year, it's just continuing to improve as more and more attention is being paid to that space, which is great. And in some cases, we feel like we've pushed suppliers along. And in other cases, suppliers are like, hey, look what we just did. And this would be great for this, this solar system. So, it's been a really fun journey on the solar side, especially because we've seen in such a short time a big evolution and a really good path forward for the industry in that space.
And you now have 2 other basically lines
Yep,
that Ember
exactly.
builds with different features in them. So when did you just wake up one day and say, okay, we need to do more? Because for those of you who don't know, and I would think our listeners are generally RV knowledgeable,
Yep.
but in, what would you say, mid 2022, the bottom fell out?
That's a great way to put it. That's
Yeah.
exactly how it felt.
And everybody said, nope, not buying.
Yep.
We're done.
Yep. So from the very beginning, even though we knew we were going to start in this overland space, we knew we also wanted to grow and be a full line travel trailer dealer and get into fifth wheels, eventually as well. So we had this plan, right? And our next thing was going to be a luxury travel trailer. So we were working on it. Once we got our overland really dialed in and went into production with that, we immediately then had our team switch. Okay, now let's finish out the luxury travel trailer line, and we're going to introduce it next fall, which was the fall of 22, which is really when the bottom fell out.
It is exactly when the bottom fell out.
And we didn't really know it was falling out until it just fell out. And so, this time actually in 2022, we introduced our touring edition, which is our luxury travel trailer line. And a lot of dealers came to view it and they're like, this is great. It's beautiful. We love the feature set. It's awesome. But we're not buying right now because the market got really soft.
Yeah.
And
because
so
we're out of money.
Yeah, we're out of money. Things aren't moving like they once did. The
Yeah.
buyers are, all kind of tied up with what they already own. It's just not great. And we're like, great. That's awesome.
But you know what? At that point, you weren't alone. I mean,
Oh,
every
absolutely.
manufacturer was going, what do we do now? And all the dealers were too.
Yep.
I mean, I felt like
We were all in it together, and we can say misery loves company, I guess.
but yeah, it was brutal.
tough.
And the other thing is that you always have that idea of it'll pick up next month.
Right.
Right? Okay, well, maybe next quarter.
Yep.
And then it's like,
And
next
historically,
year,
if
this
you-
will all be over.
yeah.
It'll be better next year.
Yeah.
Because historically,
It doesn't typically last very long. And,
That's right.
And the RV industry has been a leading indicator of economic, trends.
right?
But it hasn't lasted that long. So my father is retired, but every now and then, he does advise us on things. And when that started happening, he went through 08 and 09 with Jayco leading it. And so I called him like, Dad, what can I do? What do we need to do? What would you say in this situation? Or how would you handle this? And he's been very, very helpful with that stuff. But as what we've gone through the last couple of years in this industry and with the economy slowing, he finally was like, the big difference is that 08, 09 happened and it happened fast, and we kind of came out of it,
It started
much faster
rebuilding.
than this is what you're experiencing. So, but to your point, it wasn't just an Ember problem, which did make me feel a little better, even though I was just like, can we just not have this happen right now?
Yeah. And the answer is no.
Yep.
The business is either growing or it's shrinking.
Yep.
And that is probably in every business.
Yeah.
But I know that in the RV business, we're either gaining ground and bringing in new buyers and new people experiencing RVs, or we're experiencing less and less and less buyers for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Whether it's, consumer confidence, whether it's economic downturn,
Yeah.
whether it's just, RVs, they're kind of a luxury thing.
Yeah.
So people quit buying RVs if there's some big world event going
Oh,
on.
yeah.
And they don't even care if it's in China or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
They just...
It's a completely
it is-
discretionary purchase.
It's very
people
interesting.
don't need an RV, but they want it to go do the things you can do in an RV. But to your point, it's the first thing that they are able to give up or
Right.
do give up when
Right.
things change.
That's
And
right.
that's something that we do keep in mind though here at Ember. And I tell everybody on my team that all the time, like, hey, people are working hard for their money. And so when they choose to spend their money on something like an RV, specifically an Ember, we need to build it with high quality so that their money is put to good use, right?
Okay, well, I just have to stop you right there because I do a lot of interviews.
Yeah.
Everybody says that.
Sure.
We build a good product. Have you ever heard anybody say, We build
a horrible,
product.
Yeah.
I mean,
we don't actually pay attention to it.
Occasionally we'll have somebody who says, yeah, we build for price point. And I'm like, okay, so you build a cheap trailer and you get what you pay for.
Yep.
But the reality is everybody says, yeah, well, we want to build a good trailer, be worth their investment. I mean, of course you do.
Sure.
But what
sets us apart?
What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me personally, I'll just speak for myself right now, and then we can go into what does Ember do. But for me personally, being the owner of this organization, I feel like my name is on every single RV we build. And so if my name's going to be on it, I need it to be high quality. I need it to be not only designed intentionally, I need it to be put together intentionally. And I preach to the team, I just say to them every day, you know, when you're building this, whether you're my engineer designing it, whether you're, you know, the gentleman on the line who's, you know, screwing this to the wall, or you're the customer service representative answering the phone, treat your job as if you were doing this for your parents or your best friend or your aunt, and you want them or yourself. You want them to be proud of what they own. Again, it's their hard-earned money that they're choosing to spend on this kind of a lifestyle. Don't take that for granted. So I am very much a leader who I like to empower each individual team member to have responsible freedom. What does that mean? There are, you know, things and overarching policies and procedures we follow here at Ember, but within your own job, take that responsible freedom and own it. That is your job. Do it well. Be proud of the work when you leave here at the end of the day, and then come back the next day and do it again, you know? And part of that comes into like how you build your culture, right, too.
So what do you do that's so different from any other manufacturer? How do you build that culture?
I will say that I feel like building a culture can be one of the hardest things you do, right? Just because it is something you have to pay attention to every single day. And again, just like building and designing with intentionality, your culture has to be built and with intentionality and given the attention that it deserves, or else it's not going to be there. It's as simple as remembering your team members' names and saying, good morning, how was your weekend? How's your wife? Did your children have sporting events? You know, like engaging them on a personal level, right? And again, we get so busy in the day-to-day that if we don't intentionally think about doing those things, it can go away from us. And so it's always refocusing on what matters. And at the end of the day, if my team is happy, they're going to do a better job. They're going to build a better RV. And so that's actually our mission here at Ember. Our mission says to build a better RV, we first need to build a better RV company. And then we go on to define that. And we have, you know, a list of principles that we want to live by here at Ember. And I think it's just, for me, it's treating each person as a person and not just a tool to get the job done.
Is that the big principle? What other principles do you have? Because that's a great one.
Yeah.
But
so one of
do you
my
have
favorites
something
and one
kind of all packaged about your principles?
Yeah, we do. We have 12 of them.
12.
We have 12,
like
which
a
sounds like a
12-step
lot.
program?
Yeah, it's a 12-step program. Yeah, so, you know, some of those things are like whenever possible, we want to source domestically. We do feel strongly about that. There are some things that we just right now cannot find domestically, but anytime. You know, like refrigerators are sometimes hard to find domestically. Things like microwaves, even TVs, like more of your electronic type things. Those are harder to find, you know, domestically. But we do make a lot of buying decisions based on, is it made in the USA, right?
Doesn't that drive your price up?
It does. It does in some cases, yes. Not to, you know, get into the weeds here, but with, you know, some of the tariffs and things that are going on, some of it is actually now on par in some cases. But it does drive the price up. So, you know, like Overland uses a product called Asdel. It's made in Virginia. It's a composite material that doesn't have, you know, rot, mold, or mildew. You know, it can't have that stuff, and it has better sound and screw retention and things of that nature, but it is a little more money than the traditional wood that's used in RVs. But there's also benefits. So back to the principles. Like that's one of them, for instance. It's, treat others like you would want to be treated. Like we're all working together here. So be kind, right? Which seems simple, but it is something that we try to focus on. But one of our favorites, and at first I was a little hesitant to add it as number 12 because I didn't want it to rub people the wrong way. But
I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah, as you get into it and you understand it, I hope that it sounds like it's a good thing, a positive thing. And number 12 is always acknowledge we can do better. A lot of times I feel like companies will come out and say, we're the best. We're the best in this and we're the best at that.
Or we build a really good trailer.
Right.
What does that mean?
Right.
We have great customer service.
Right.
What does that mean?
Right, exactly. And so as we, like I said, I was a little hesitant because you're like, okay,
right, yeah,
trying to wrap your head around it. But as we used it more and more, it's not to say that we didn't do great today, but was there some aspect of what we did or the way we approached a conversation or, did we think of something as we were installing this that maybe we could do better next time? Yeah. And it's just this idea that we can always improve. We can always improve as humans. We can always improve in our job. We can always improve our product design. We can always improve. There's always, room for improvement.
Yes.
As much as they want to say, I'm the best or this is the best, like, is that really true? I don't know. So
well, I see your hesitancy because you don't want to say,
we weren't good yesterday, but tomorrow we'll be better.
We
That's
can
not
always
the
improve.
point.
Kind of puts a spotlight on things that maybe you don't do well, but
or at least keeps people thinking.
Yes.
To on that improvement.
I don't think it necessarily means we have things we don't do very well. It's that anything can get better.
Right. Right.
Anything can get better.
And it's again the thinking in that way too of like, how could I improve this?
Right. So, I think those are great principles. A lot of people have vision statements or mission statements, and then they have core values, and I always look at them and it seems so trite.
Sure.
So you really got to see, is there any meat behind this? I have heard a couple of comments since I've been here in the past few days where people on your team have said, you know what, here's what I think, but Ashley may have a better idea. And I find that to be fascinating. Yeah. Because there is absolutely no resentment there. There is, let's be sure we have the best idea. Yeah. And I think that's great.
Yeah. And I actually, to that front, I appreciate the respect that they're giving me in that phrase. But I actually want them to tell me their ideas too. I don't know everything. I could not do this without my team. There is no bone in my body that thinks I could have done this on my own.
Well, no good leader could have done it on their own.
Correct. And if you think you can, then let's rethink that. But
it's disrespectful.
It's disrespectful, and I need a team, and I need their ideas. I do not know everything.
One of the hardest things I have is to get people to tell me their ideas sometimes. Because I said, you said you like this. Yep. Well, yeah, I did. But if you could tell me what you think, maybe there's a discussion here.
Correct. Yeah.
It is.
We may not go your way at the end of the discussion, but I want to hear it because maybe it makes me think differently or think of a different idea.
Your best employees are the ones that can challenge you.
Yep. 100%.
And every morning I get up hoping to be challenged, and I go to bed at night saying, oh my gosh, that was a lot.
What did I ask for?
Really, do I want this? And I get up the next day and I'm like, all right, let's see who disagrees with me. I love that in my team. Yeah. So, it is great. There is a different feel here at Ember than there is in an awful lot of places. Yeah. So, back to product, how does that translate to your product? Because we've made it through the downturn. Your luxury line came out. Yep. I mean, did the downturn, what's the biggest thing you learned when everything dropped out the bottom?
Oh man, it taught us a lot of challenging
besides
things,
humility,
right. Lots of humility.
We all learned that.
I had one of my dealer partners tell me, if you can get through this, you'll be able to get through anything. So just keep going.
That's right.
And I've thanked him for those words because at the time I just wanted to scream, Sure. But now looking back, I'm like, he was right. There was truth in that. And we learned a lot. So the downturn was rough. We learned a lot. But again, it did help us design our product line. So we launched our luxury travel trailer at the absolutely wrong time, even though we
Right,
didn't know
right.
it when we launched it. So that was a rough year or so trying to get that really going. The next fall, because of what we were experiencing in this industry, I said we were going to actually launch a fifth wheel. And I said, no, right now is not the time for that. We need a more affordable, everyday RV. What we're not going to do is cut corners on quality. But let's take a look at what we know from our Overland series and our Touring Edition, and then let's take it down so that we can get into a more affordable price point, but still give them all the essentials that they need to have a quality camper. And so that's when we introduced our E-Series line, which is a very much more traditional RV, but that's what the market was needing. And that's quite frankly what we were needing as well. We had a lot of big fans out there that said, we love your products, we love your company, we love what you're doing, but it's a someday camper for me. Not today. It's a little too out of my price range at the moment, but someday I'm going to own Ember. And so our E-Series really was a way to say, hey guys, look, you can come be an Ember crew now. Get in the Ember crew now. So that was a fun project, even though the timing was still tough to get through. But so yeah, even in those tough times, you almost learn more in tough times.
Oh, of course
than you do in the good times. In the good times, you're just having fun, right? Not to say you don't have your challenges, but yeah, the market the last couple of years has taught us a lot. And
So, yes, I think in the good times, you're just trying to maybe improve processes, tweak the system, keep it going, grow, have some fun, all of those wonderful things. And you kind of get lazy.
Sure.
And then when things get tough, you have to get creative, and you have to be.
You're looking in every
look for more
corner, under every rock to figure out what do
really
we got to
true.
do.
What do we have to do?
What do we have
here?
to do? Yeah.
And what's missing?
Right.
Is there anything that's missing?
Right.
You found something that was missing.
Yep.
So, what's next for Ember?
Well,
Are you gonna do that fifth wheel?
we still have a fifth wheel in the works. Yes.
Oh, good.
It's coming. It's coming. And
What about
the team is excited.
toy hauler?
Toy hauler is coming as well. So we do have a toy hauler, a gear hauler, we call it, in our Overland series already. It's the 240 TKR. But maybe a little less of what you would be describing now as like a very traditional toy hauler. The very traditional toy hauler is coming.
Okay.
That will probably come, honestly, before the fifth wheel.
Okay.
Fifth wheels, we want to take our time and get it exactly right before we push it out to the masses. But it is in the works.
Is it going to be like a touring style fifth wheel?
Yeah. So when we launched touring, our plan was then to do the fifth wheel right after, because we really built our touring like a fifth wheel, just in a travel trailer body. And so, yeah, it'll follow some of the same footprint as our touring edition.
Well, I can't wait to see it because I love what you've done with this. It has kind of an upscale traditional feel in them, but very well done, very solid. Is there anything else that anybody needs to know right off the bat about the Ember trailers that we haven't talked about?
I think we covered a lot of it.
We covered a lot of it. Yeah. And now you have this really great company. Maybe the buyer confidence is not where we're hoping it ends up, but it's coming up, and you guys have made your mark.
Yeah.
You have definitely made your mark.
Yeah.
So looking back now, how would you describe the past 5 years of building this company?
Oh man, definitely challenging, but a good challenge, and it's been a lot of fun. And like you said, the market isn't totally back, but we are seeing it come around. I feel like me and my team, we're in a great spot, and we're really excited about where Ember is and where it's going. But yeah, the last 5 years, it was a lot, but it was a lot of fun doing it too.
Well, for you to continue to build in the last few years and grow your lines, grow your company, it's impressive.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yes. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
And hopefully you'll chat with us again soon.
Yeah.
And we'll give our listeners an update.
Sounds great.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks,
you.
Ashley. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.